iOS 27 is a name that can attract certainty before there is evidence to support it. This episode is deliberately not a feature roundup, and it does not use Apple footage, product film, press imagery, interface captures, or generic phones as proof. Instead, it lays out a calm review method. The practical question is simple. When official information arrives, what would have to be true for an update to improve ordinary use rather than just a novelty? That distinction protects your time, your storage, and your expectations. A claim can be interesting without yet being actionable. A review earns confidence by separating what is documented, what can be observed, and what changes a real task. Until those three layers line up, the responsible answer is provisional. The point is not to slow down enthusiasm. It is to give enthusiasm a testable shape. Before chasing a future version number, inventory the phone in your hand. Which device do you use? How much free storage remains? Which apps matter? And where do interruptions happen? A software update is not experienced in a vacuum. It meets your battery health, your network conditions, your accessibility settings, your work accounts, and the small habits that make a phone useful. That is why a headline feature is a poor substitute for a use case. The first test is not whether a feature demos well. It is whether it is available on your hardware, available in your region and language, and available in the app where you need it. If any of those conditions fails, the promise has changed. In practice, a clear unknown is more valuable than a confident guess. There is a second discipline here: rights and representation. Apple documentation can be cited to identify official context, but a citation is not a license to reuse Apple-owned media. This package, therefore, uses original explanatory graphics and neutral citation cards. Any generic smartphone visual is visibly labeled as context only, with its model unverified and not iPhone product evidence. That label matters. A familiar rectangle in someone's hand does not demonstrate a particular operating system, a feature, or compatibility. Keeping evidence and illustration separate is not a cosmetic choice. It gives viewers a way to see where a statement comes from and where an editorial framework begins. That distinction keeps an editorial explainer useful after the launch day excitement fades. The fastest way to improve a review is to replace a broad promise with one small task. Instead of asking whether the update makes communication smarter, ask whether a specific message can be found, understood, and acted on with fewer steps. Instead of asking whether it saves battery, run the same route, the same brightness range, and the same accessory conditions. Instead of asking whether it is more private, identify the setting, the default state, the permission prompt, and the recovery route. A task has a beginning, an observable action, an outcome, and a limitation. It is less dramatic than a slogan, but it is far more useful when you are deciding whether to update today. The point is not to slow down enthusiasm. It is to give enthusiasm a testable shape. Compatibility is not a single yes or no. It is a stack. Hardware support is only the first layer. A capability may require a newer chip, a particular language, a local download, an account setting, a network connection, or a participating app. The review should name every condition it can verify and mark the rest as unknown. This prevents a common mistake, treating a feature announcement as if every phone will receive the same experience. It also gives a viewer an honest way to compare the result with their own setup. A good compatibility section ends with a plain sentence: here is who can test this now, here is who needs to wait, and here is what would change the answer. In practice, a clear unknown is more valuable than a confident guess. Battery claims are especially easy to overread. A percentage, an anecdote, or a single day is not a complete answer. The meaningful unit is a repeatable routine: the same starting charge, screen brightness range, network type, background activity, and mix of calls, maps, camera, and messaging. Then compare outcomes over more than one cycle and retain the conditions alongside the result. A new feature may be useful and still carry a cost. A polished animation may be pleasant and still produce no measurable change in your day. The goal is not to punish an update for using energy. The goal is to make the trade-off visible enough that a viewer can decide whether it is worth it. That distinction keeps an editorial explainer useful after the launch day excitement fades. Privacy claims deserve the same discipline. A label on a slide does not tell you where data goes, what is optional, or how a setting can be reversed. Start with the user-facing behavior. What information is requested? Is the choice clear? Does the setting persist? Can you inspect it later? Can you turn it off without breaking a separate useful function? Then identify the official documentation that describes the behavior and distinguish that documentation from any independent observation. The practical review result is not a vague statement that something is secure. It is a repeatable path through a permission, a setting, a visible result, and a limitation that viewers can check on their own device. The point is not to slow down enthusiasm. It is to give enthusiasm a testable shape. Design is where early impressions can be both real and incomplete. A new visual language can make a phone feel different immediately. But the review test is not a beauty contest. It is whether labels remain readable in bright light, whether controls are discoverable, whether contrast works with accessibility settings, and whether this same routine takes less effort after a few days. Look for navigation friction, accidental taps, animation delays, and the places where information density changes. A clean marketing image cannot answer those questions. Nor can a generic device image. Only a documented interface observation on the supported device can. Until then, the correct editorial stance is to describe the review plan, not invent a verdict. In practice, a clear unknown is more valuable than a confident guess. At the end of a review, most people need one of three answers. Update now, wait for the first maintenance release, or stay put for a while. Update now is a recommendation only when the relevant features are available, the important tasks improve, and the known trade-offs are acceptable. Wait is often the most useful answer when compatibility is unclear, essential apps have not caught up, or battery and accessibility behavior needs more observation. Stay put is reasonable when the change does not solve a problem you have. None of these paths is a failure. The point of a review is to reduce uncertainty, not turn every release into an emergency. That distinction keeps an editorial explainer useful after the launch day excitement fades. The review log is intentionally boring. For every claim, it records the task, the condition, the observed outcome, and the limitation. A result should say what happened, not what the team hoped would happen. A limitation should remain beside the result rather than being buried after the conclusion. If a behavior cannot be reproduced, it is not a stable recommendation. If a result depends on a region, language, account, hardware tier, or network condition, that condition belongs in the headline. This method leaves room for delight. It just makes delight accountable. The more consequential a claim sounds, the more useful it is to show the path that would let someone else verify it. The point is not to slow down enthusiasm. It is to give enthusiasm a testable shape. For iOS 27, the early answer is deliberately limited. Treat official information as cited context. Do not confuse a generic device with iPhone evidence. Do not confuse an announcement with availability. And do not confuse a first impression with a repeatable outcome. When a documented release and supported hardware are available for review, the useful questions will be concrete. What works, for whom, under what conditions, and with what trade-offs? Until then, the best upgrade advice is simple. Keep your current routine in view, save a backup before major changes, read the compatibility notes, and wait for evidence that matches the way you actually use your phone. That is proof, not hype. In practice, a clear unknown is more valuable than a confident guess.